All right, we're live. I'm the real underscore G Warner on Twitter. That's where you find me. That's where you find this, unless you go to YouTube and you're one of 4 people that probably ever look at it. Anywho, thanks for coming in my beautiful Hetafe jersey, because why not wear soccer jerseys when you work from home? Going to do a quick going through a midweek matches as there only seems to be, well, there's a lot of tournament play, cups between the French Cup is, I guess, starting midweek on Thursday, going through this weekend. Also, the Coppa Italia, which I will take you through on this podcast stream, whatever we're calling it. But then regular Premier League and Bundesliga play. And with that said, I've not looked at lines yet, so this is going to be doing it live. And I also got to say, I'm pretty out of the loop on what's happened in Germany because Watch ESPN hasn't seemed to upload anything. So this might be a trial by fire, but it is what it is. And I'm going to be looking down to get what these numbers are. So pardon me, but we're going to start where the money is, and that is in the English Premier League. So starting on Tuesday, we have Brentford hosting Manchester United. Currently, Brentford getting half of a goal. Brentford are a decent defensive team that lost a lot of players due to injury, have been able to score goals, had a huge comeback win against Watford to come back from 1-0 to equalize, then also take the 3 points. Huge for them, as I think it sent them to the top half of the table after they were really struggling, and to get 3 points from a losing position against another relegation rival is a really big deal. Got to think that this is a cherry on top type of situation, playing Manchester United. Not really expecting to get too much, so they are at home. So probably a draw is the limit of their maybe can't even say it solidified their defense, but I'm not even sure he's really done that. And United giving half of a goal on the road does seem a little bit expensive based on how their offense has been. But Brentford really just haven't delivered. Had a pretty good victory against Watford, but coming from behind is never really a good sign from one of the worst teams in the league. And I don't think this is anywhere close to good enough of a price on Brentford to back them. Though it does, I guess, give me some sort of appeal that the market likes Brentford, or else the number would be a lot higher. But based on Manchester United's offense, I'm not sure that you can really believe that. Next, Norwich City hosting Aston Villa, currently getting a quarter of a goal. Aston Villa with the circus that was Steven Gerrard returning home to Liverpool, survived that, played pretty well. Ultimately should have backed Aston Villa, but they covered the spread pretty fortunately, though there were some big chances at the end for Liverpool once Aston Villa were pushing for an equalizer. That is a concern. Maybe Gerrard's a little bit more aggressive with that than others. I haven't seen that many open field chances that have really been conceded to Liverpool. But then again, losing 1-0 or 2-0 doesn't really matter. It's all about going for that equalizer. I think Villa have been playing really well. Their defense has been really solid. Norwich has also been improving under Dean Smith, the former Aston Villa manager, who's got to have some sort of intel into what to do against Aston Villa, considering they just fired him. And I'm sure he's very interested in doing well and putting on a performance on this one. Problem with Norwich is they're one of the worst teams and we're the biggest favorite to be relegated. They've been playing a little bit better lately under Dean Smith, but only getting a quarter at home means you need a win to win a full bet, which is, I think, a tall ask for one of the worst teams in the league. And Villa's defense have been so good that I'm just not really sure you can really expect Norwich to score a lot. Certainly, goalless draws always pay out a certain percentage on an underdog, no matter if they're a quarter or higher. And I guess as an underdog player, I lean that way. But I'm not sure that I'm in love with it just yet. Manchester City then host Leeds, currently giving 2.25 goals. And this one's an easy one for me to stay away from. City's offense has not been very good. Got a really fortunate penalty that I don't think was deserved against Wolves as the lone goal in their victory. And playing against 10 men for an entire half should have been a lot more lopsided of a scoreline, I think. But Leeds aren't. I mean, they showed some pragmatism last season when they played City and towards the end of the year. Maybe that was due to fatigue and injury levels or whatever. But they're way more banged up now. I would think if there's ever a time to play a conservative match, it's this match exactly here at the Etihad against Manchester City. I just don't know that I can trust Bielsa to play in that pragmatic fashion, and that's just not something I'm willing to step in front of. Even getting 2.25 goals from an offense that has been sputtering, to say it or to put it as nicely as possible. Moving to Wednesday, Burnley hosting Brentford. Wow, I'm just struggling all over today, but thank you for joining. Burnley hosting Watford. Currently, Burnley giving a quarter of a goal, all the juice on their side. Watford, one of the worst teams in the league. The standings don't say it just yet, but they are. Um, and so looking into backing them as an underdog on the road is a tall ask because they're probably going to lose most of these matchups, even at home, especially on the road. The nice thing, I guess, if you're playing Burnley, is that they are not a great goal scoring team. So as a favorite, they're really tough to back. So that would make me automatically lean the dog, which I do anyway as an underdog player. But if you were just looking at this, it didn't have that type of bias. I think Watford are interesting getting a quarter because the odds are on that side. That likely means it's climbing to a half. Burnley is a half a goal favorite. Doesn't seem to be a very, very good investment plan. The problem with Watford is their defense has been a disaster. I think Claudio Ranieri is playing on the front foot because he knows he can't defend and has no chance. Ridiculous late slide for a penalty to concede to lose the match against Brentford was just so bad. It's probably why I'm thinking about that when I see Watford. Can Burnley get an easy penalty like that? Sure. Are they going to have a ton of possession and be kind of down Watford's throat? Maybe. I mean, Ranieri seems to go, he was playing and sitting back and playing defense the whole time, at least against the bigger sides. I don't know that he's really been doing that so recently. I think that was what he did in his first match with when they played Liverpool. That didn't work, and maybe that's forced him to come out. I think any team is best on a counterattack because they have a lot more space. But Burnley are a long balls, try to win matches 0-0, but like get that late goal or get some sort of header or set piece or whatever to score. And that's a tough situation to be in as a favorite. So I guess despite saying what I just did about Watford, I lean that way. And if it climbs to a half of a goal, being able to go to Burnley and take a draw and win a full bet is I guess, of interest if the line climbs to that number. Next is Brighton hosting Wolves. No line right now, at least on the goal spread, but based off of the math I'm doing on the three-way line, makes me think that it's right about Brighton a quarter goal favorite to Wolves. Raul Jimenez is going to be suspended after getting two ridiculous consecutive yellow cards back to back in the end of the first half against City. That zaps a really important offensive player and probably means that Wolves will throw Adama Traore out there. Yikes. Or Trincao, double yikes. Who's going to score for them? I mean, Hwang was their best. I mean, he basically brought them off the canvas when they weren't scoring any goals. But can he do it alone? I'm not sure. And the Wolves offense was already problematic, but without Jimenez, who was really kind of dropping back and being more of a number 9 on his jersey, playing the number 10 position and trying to create for his teammates. I just don't know where the goals come from. So it's hard to really see goals from Brighton either, though, because they seem to get late equalizers from Neil Maupay, who just blows chances the rest of the game. I don't know. The Brighton love affair with their manager, Graham Potter, that hasn't gone great recently. There's a lot of issues with this one, but ultimately Brighton are going to be a quarter goal favorite. Maybe that is enough to want to, it certainly makes me want to look at Wolves on the other side. I just think that if there's ever a 0-0 on the card, this might be it. And certainly that pays out underdog bets. So that's of interest. Crystal Palace then hosting Southampton, giving a quarter of a goal with all the juice in Crystal Palace. Southampton got smashed by Arsenal, who aren't very good. Their goal scoring has been pretty decrepit this whole season, getting one chance, scoring it, and then holding on for dear life for 1-0. Not a bad scenario or a strategy for the road, especially if your defense isn't very good. Palace have been up and down. I think they have shown flashes that they could be really good, but ultimately haven't taken that next step. Maybe that's something they will do this year under Vieira, but it certainly hasn't happened yet. I think quarter of a goal is interesting to me to back Southampton here. But I don't really love that. I think Crystal Palace, if they climb to half of a goal, that would be a lot more interesting to me, as something that I would consider going against, because I just don't believe in Crystal Palace's offense. Even though it's a lot more dynamic this year, it's not just Christian Benteke with headers or Wilfried Zaha just trying to create and build it himself. Gallagher's been great, but it's just one of those things where I think we got to figure out some way to come in on it. And I'm not sure if a quarter's enough, maybe a half. Sorry, I just got a call right in the middle of a podcast. They must not have known. Next on the list is Arsenal hosting West Ham. Arsenal currently a quarter of a goal favorite with most of the juice on their side. I think That's a name brand favorite versus a better West Ham team. West Ham's goal scoring is not great and is something that's always going to be a concern. Arsenal's is better, but I think their defense is worse. And I trust the West Ham coaching staff, David Moyes, to do a lot more with a defensive setup than I do with Arsenal trying to pick their way through it when they have to win because they're at home, according to the goal spread. I'm interested in West Ham, would love for it to be higher. But I got to say, I'm a little concerned about their offense, and Mikel Antonio is certainly not as hot as he was to start the year. Maybe the international breaks thrown in there or just not being able to keep it up. But still, if there's anything to play here, I think it's West Ham, and I like them as an underdog a ton. Next, we have Leicester and Tottenham on Thursday, and that's Leicester giving half of a goal with all the juice in the Tottenham side. Not sure what to expect from the Tottenham lineup and basically who is available with all the COVID outbreak, if it even was an outbreak, if that was all a scheme. Like, I don't even know what's happening. Um, Ultimately, Leicester's defense has been a disaster, and it's really hard to want to back them as a favorite because they're going to have to score 2 or maybe 3 goals to cover the spread to win this game. So that's of interest, or it's interesting to me to back Tottenham in that situation. Unfortunately, only 3 substitutes in the Premier League is a big deal if they have a really thin squad or haven't been training, all that sort of stuff. So that's all a concern. I'm not really sure if this match is even going to get played, but certainly leaning Tottenham right now at a half of a goal, even with all that juice, because Leicester as a favorite right now are scary. Chelsea hosting Everton. Currently, Chelsea giving a goal and a half. Everton's been a disaster, but Chelsea hasn't been playing well. Really fortunate to get a win late from a late penalty, as all the big clubs did across all of Europe, it felt like this weekend. Everton's been a disaster offensively for a couple seasons now, and their defense has been really bad this year. Once they lost Ancelotti, they seem to lose that, even though they're still playing 4 center backs all at once, basically, but calling them fullbacks. I don't know. Like, Chelsea are ripe to go against getting a goal and a half. That looks like it's even climbing a goal in 3 quarters. If you can hold your nose and play Everton, probably not the worst play in the world. But maybe Chelsea wakes up. I just don't think we can believe that they're going to do that. Liverpool then hosting Newcastle, giving 2.5 goals. Liverpool is awesome. I mean, only scoring 1 last week. They're due for 5 or 6 this weekend based on what they had been scoring. I think Newcastle are going to play on the front foot. That's a disaster to play against Liverpool. So I think that's one just to probably step away from and give up. And so that was probably the bulk of the program. So now I'm going to go through Coppa Italia. There's some dogs in this one, or that's not a really good word to use. There's some tiny teams I've never heard of. So we'll go through. Venezia giving a 3/4 goal to Ternana. Don't know what to say about that. But Venezia is a big favorite, is a scary thing for them, who've just been trying to play defense the whole Serie A season. Udinese hosting recently relegated Crotone, giving a goal and a half. Probably a similar number in Serie A last year. I think the Udinese defense is not very good compared to what it has been in the past, but Crotone I think, set a record for goals allowed in Serie A last season. So, and I'm sure only got worse with players they had to sell when they went down a level. Genoa hosting Salernatana, 2 Serie A teams matchup. Tough draw for these two, but Genoa at a half of a goal favorite at home. Salernatana with all the juice on the road. I mean, definitely lean a dog's an underdog player, but Genoa under Shevchenko have not been able to do anything. Win is the main thing that they can't do, but scoring goals is a problem. They've always been giving up goals this season. Salernitana, the problem is just, can you really trust them to compete? Do they care as much about this Coppa Italia matchup with Serie A on Saturday or on the weekend or whatever? Like, I would think that you're trying to stick in the league, and so you want to use some reserves for the Coppa Italia, but it depends how seriously they take it and kind of what that lineup looks like as we're running into Christmas and there's not a lot of space between games. Moving to Wednesday, Verona hosting Empoli. Currently, Verona giving a half of a goal. With all the juice on their side, I think Empoli have been playing really well. Verona have a great offense, though, and certainly look dangerous. But it kind of seems like a bigger spread, especially if this climbs to 3/4 of a goal. Empoli have been playing really well, and I can't really dispute that. Verona haven't been able to hang on to their hot start. So I'm interested in Empoli. Cagliari hosting Cittadella, giving 3/4 of a goal, all the juice on the Cittadella side. Never heard of Cittadella, but a bit of a surprise to see Cagliari giving 3/4 of a goal to anybody. Even if this falls to half, that feels like it's kind of cheap on a Serie A side, though, I got to say. Fiorentina then hosting Benevento, another recently relegated. Fiorentina, goal and a half favorite. And their offense with Vlahovic has been hot lately, with or without Nico Gonzalez, though I still think he's really important to how they can score goals. Benevento, though, gave up a lot of their best players as they moved down a level. And so it's really hard to know how they can compete. Moving to Thursday, Spezia hosting Lecce. Small favorites. It looks like Spezia is about a half of a goal favorite. Lecce relegated 2 seasons ago. Was a big deal. And it's like one of those things where I'm not really sure what to expect, but I think Sampdoria. Then the next one is hosting Torino, currently a quarter goal favorite. Torino have been playing better. I think they're better offensively with possession with the ball. Ultimately, Sampdoria, though, on the other side, got a big win in the Derby della Lanterna this weekend, or starting the week off in Serie A, being Genoa. I think from what I see with Torino, they're a team I'd want to back here. They're a very expensive quarter goal underdog, though, so that is a bit of a concern and probably might even disqualify them from being on the list. Now moving to the Bundesliga for the last part of this episode. Tuesday we have Stuttgart hosting Bayern München, currently getting a goal in 3 quarters. I don't see where Stuttgart is able to step in the way of Bayern, who have been so good. And ultimately, Stuttgart has dealt with so many injuries. Arminia Bielefeld hosting Bochum, currently giving a quarter of a goal. All the juice on the road Bochum side. I think Bochum are a team that really thrives on its home crowd. They don't certainly have that here. But Bielefeld as a favorite is a really weird position for them because they struggle so much to score goals. So it's a very expensive quarter right now in Bochum, but that's the side I would lean to. And I probably would play it even at this expense to make sure you don't lose a quarter before kickoff. And I might even look into doing that ASAP. Mainz hosting Hertha Berlin. Currently, Mainz giving half of a goal with all the juice on the Mainz side. Hertha just have been a disaster. Defense hasn't been good. Offense hasn't produced very well. Mainz have been really, really solid. And they're not great in a favorite role, I don't think. But I'm not sure that Hertha are a side I want to back here because I think that they're going to wither under the Mainz pressure. And there's a lot of that because that's what they're best at, is really putting their opponents under pressure. And I think that's how they really squeeze their goals out. Wolfsburg then hosting Cologne. Wolfsburg, a half a goal favorite at home. They've been playing really poorly, crashed out of Champions League, finishing last, and even dropped down to Europa. Cologne have been playing really well. Their offense has been pretty good, with crossing the box being their way to score. I think Cologne are of interest to me. I'm not sure that it's going to stick here, as really expensive half goal underdogs tend to fall to a quarter. But that might not even be a big issue for me because I think that they're playing better. Wolfsburg have a manager who's came in, installed 3 center back defense on a defensive side that struggled to score goals. I just don't think that's the answer, and it hasn't really worked in any of their play so far. Moving to Wednesday, Gladbach hosting Frankfurt, giving half of a goal. Frankfurt with all the juice at a half a goal underdog on the road is of interest because Gladbach have been playing so poorly. I'm not sure that I love Frankfurt, but I think Frankfurt goal scoring is their biggest issue. Gladbach seems like their defense is a problem, even though they have a lot of their defensive players back from decent defenses in past years, but they did fall and finish way below expectations last season. So Gladbach might just be average or not good. And Frankfurt at least played pretty well in Europa League this year, advanced, I think won their group, and as a half a goal underdog, even on the road, that's of interest based on how poorly Gladbach have been playing. And you never know when the whistles or how quickly the whistles will come out. Augsburg then hosting Leipzig. Currently, Augsburg a goal and a quarter underdog at home. Leipzig haven't played anywhere near expectations, fired their American manager, all that sort of stuff. Augsburg have been honestly playing great. I thought Friday was a really good showing from them. Quick turnaround, but confidence has to be there from that. And beating Bayern a couple of weeks ago, certainly still there. I feel like this is a huge, huge number, and I don't really understand it. Even if it falls to 1, I'm still interested in Augsburg. Next is Leverkusen, a half of a goal favorite at home to Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim with big, big road struggles. But Leverkusen certainly have a little bit of an open defense. There might be a lot of goals in this game. Currently total at 3.25. It's a lot higher than others. We'll see like Bochum at 2.5 at Bielefeld from the day before. So that's a pretty big number to get over, and certainly it's tough to score goals in soccer, et cetera, et cetera. Both of these teams can probably score a ton of goals here. I just don't know that I like Hoffenheim enough away to put up with a team that scores a ton of goals, because I feel like a shootout is really not what you want against a team like Leverkusen. Borussia Dortmund then hosting Greuther Fürth, giving 2.5 goals. Fourth, not really a Bundesliga side, Schweizer Liga, I guess. But I think this is going to be a blowout, and I just can't really have any interest in backing Greuther Fürth at this point, until they show some signs that they haven't shown enough of those yet. And then last but not least, Union Berlin hosting Freiburg. Currently, Union a quarter goal favorite with all the juice, though, on Freiburg on the road. This might fall to a pick 'em. Union, really tough campaign, didn't go very well in the Conference League, which is disappointing for how well they played in the Bundesliga last year, but it is what it is. I think Freiburg have played really well as a road underdog. I'm not sure that it's a great situation for them, but they're ultimately going to be in a position where they might be able to control possession, which is what they need to get a bunch of shots and to score a ton of goals. And they've had a great start to the season and played really well, while Union really haven't. I guess Union also has a favorite. A lot of times they tend to even play for draws because they're most worried about maintaining their position in the Bundesliga, and then anything else is gravy on top of that. So that's probably why this number is where it is. Freiburg playing so well, getting a quarter is of interest to a team that really relies on set pieces to score. Though I do think Union, that's selling them a little bit short. So that's it. Those are the major points for this week: Premier League, Coppa Italia, and then lastly the Bundesliga. Anything you got, fire it at me, the real_G Warner on Twitter, and we'll talk to you soon.